the Pau Grand Prix. Nearly a century of motorsport history, unravelling at the heart of a historic town in the south of France, the Pyrenees mountain range providing a stunning backdrop for the annual festivities. You would be forgiven for thinking this circuit was Monaco's long-lost sibling. In a similar vein, a layout that's barely changed in 90 years has seen all sorts of cars take to the narrow winding streets and fight for victory, with many of the world's most renowned drivers at the heart of the action. Name any legendary F1 driver from the 60s, 70s or 80s, they probably took on the Grand Prix de Pau at some point, and possibly won it. Even in more recent times, when Formula 1 machinery and second-tier single-seater racing outgrew the circuit, drivers like Lewis Hamilton, Juan Pablo Montoya, Anthony Davidson and Romain Grosjean all took a place on the top step of the rostrum on their way to international stardom. As of the 25th of March 2024, Circuit De Pau-Ville has been added to RaceRoom, something I personally am very much grateful for, having fallen in love with this track back when I was a kid playing Race 07, and this is the first time it's been added in official capacity to a racing game since then. But there is potentially a more significant reason why this addition is important, beyond just personal and probably widespread nostalgia. This year, both the Grand Prix de Pau and the Pau Classic Grand Prix for historic machinery have been cancelled. Now, this isn't the first time the legendary event has been cancelled. Of course, World War II, the COVID-19 pandemic, and even the Le Mans disaster in '55 all put a temporary halt to proceedings. And then there was the 2010 event, which was canned due to financial troubles following a 3-year stint where the Pau GP infamously featured the World Touring Car Championship. This cancellation, however, feels a little bit different. Before we get into the details on why this is the case and the reasons why I believe this is a potentially endangered venue, let's get out on circuit and I'll show you around. So I'm going to start with a full uncut lap of the circuit, and I'm going to be driving in this first section the Crosley 9S. Now this is a car that was introduced reasonably recently to RaceRoom as part of the Charade update, and it's the cars they actually use nowadays for people to come and have a go around Charade and drive these historic style cars. It's very, very cool, and it's very fitting of the circuit actually, because we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the event. So let's click drive, into first, and away we go. So, a lap of Circuit De Pau-Ville. Into turn 1, a sharp right-hander. I've got the AI cars on as well, driving with me, so I'm going to ruin someone's lap already. And then you've got this slightly longer run up the hill, which is a little bit similar, I'd say, to Monaco, once you round the first corner. And then into a left-hander, but it's a slower speed one than that's at the top of the hill at Monte Carlo. It's basically another hairpin, one of the few overtaking opportunities around this circuit. And then you come up to the tightest corner on the track, a right-hand hairpin that's similar to the Lowe's hairpin in many ways. You can see the comparisons already. Then we're going to accelerate around this left-hand sweeper. Little bit of a lift. This is the only part of the circuit really that's changed in terms of the layout since the 1930s. And there's this newer, elongated right-hander that sweeps all the way around. Very, very tricky corner. I'm going to let the AI car go for now. And you've got to be trail braking as you come around here because you've got a tricky left-right chicane where Augusto Farfus had his famous incident in the World Touring Car Championship. You continue down the hill, around this left-hander, big curbs everywhere, then you've got another slow corner, big long right-hand hairpin, very, very tricky to get the power down, and then you sweep out of there left, and then right, and you want to stay to the right-hand side, because we've got another quick chicane, big curb in the way, big curb in the exit, get the power on as early as possible, and that's you. A sweeping stretch, flat out, a little bit like Baku in modern F1, all the way to the finish line to complete a lap of the Pau circuit. It's very narrow, it's very bumpy, not many overtaking opportunities, but you do have a couple of big braking zones. Now the reason I said these cars felt appropriate for this sort of venue is the type of racing that actually happens at the Pau Grand Prix and the classic version of the event. You get a lot of these kind of prototypey Sports Libre type cars racing around here. It's not just the fast stuff. Obviously in the past we've had the likes of Formula 3 coming here. Even back in the day it was Formula 1 cars that were racing here. Formula 2, Formula 3000s, which is essentially what Formula 2 is nowadays. But it kind of has a similar feeling to the likes of the Macau Grand Prix. It's a fun car to chuck around the circuit because it's actually got reasonably forgiving suspension. Obviously I enjoy rear-wheel drive cars. This is the one corner we didn't get to talk about in our first outlap. A very fast right-hander, fully commitment-based corner. I've hit the wall there, but that kind of prevents this right-hand hairpin from being a good overtaking opportunity because you've got so much to focus on with the fast corner before it. And it kind of forces you to get things sorted before you get there, which takes away that turn one big opportunity. So difficult to get the power down properly anywhere. Now the AI are a little bit erratic. I've done a few laps just to make sure everything's working, and what I find is they're braking very early for a lot of these corners, but then at some corners, like this section for example, they can carry more speed and grip than you can. I mean, as you can see, look at the understeer I'm getting through here. I just cannot keep up with the AI. I'll do my best though to use the weight transfer of this car to throw it around. And I think that's a big element with this circuit. It's a lot about weight transfer, balance, and change of direction. It's really a big feature of a hot lap around Pau. Just takes me back to my childhood, getting home after school, firing up Race 07, and taking a World Touring car around here. A big feature, of course, is these giant curbs that you've got to deal with. Different cars will react differently to these curbs, and you've kind of got to, I think, learn each individual combination around here. There's going to be different lines, different amounts of liberty taken depending on what car you're driving. You're not going to be able to attack it in the same way in a very low, stiff car as you would in something like this, which has got a more forgiving feel to it, a wallowy feel to it. I really do think these vintage-looking cars suit the aesthetic of this place, though. It's obviously an old town in the south of France. It's very pretty. You've got the Pyrenees behind you, and it just looks right. It just looks absolutely spot on. I try and keep it in nice and tight. We're going to shift down second, get the back end going to get that rotation, abuse the curbs, feather the throttle. There we go. Oh. Now I do want to talk about the cancellation of this year's event. I said there was a difference with this cancellation, and it feels like there is based on what I've seen. Now, I read an article on Formula Scout about this, and by the sounds of it, the 2024 event has been cancelled because, well, there's more than one reason, to be fair. Firstly, you've got the Paris Olympics happening in 2024, so a lot of kind of French sports backing and money is essentially going towards the Olympics. And that takes away, of course, potential sponsorship and potential budget for other sporting events. But it's also got a lot to do with the City Council of Pau itself. Now, they've said, although they completely acknowledge that this is a massive event for the town, one of the biggest sporting events in the town, perhaps the biggest, it's hard for me to know having not been there myself, but I'm sure it's highly regarded. Basically, they're looking to reevaluate the budget for the year in terms of sporting events, and they want to try and put more budget into essentially renewable energy development, so making the city more eco-friendly, and yes, putting money into that sector, which makes a lot of sense in the modern world. Now, the Pau Grand Prix itself has been trying to go in that direction for quite a few years now, even when it was cancelled in 2011, and then it returned, or 2010 I should say, and then returned in 2011. We saw the first inclusion of an electric support series, which is obviously looking towards renewable energy in the future. And then last year was the 80th edition of the event, and the main category, or the headline act I should say, was the French Formula 4 Championship, and they were using 100% renewable fuels, so clearly there was already an effort being made to go in this direction, but it doesn't seem like it was enough for this year. Now, the City Council provide a chunk of the funding for the event, and obviously the rest of the funding is provided by other backers, but a combination of those two things not quite going in their favour wasn't enough to save the event for this year. That's not to say that the Pau Grand Prix is dead or is not coming back. Absolutely far from it. It seems like the council are very much keen to bring the event back in 2025, but it's probably going to look different. There's going to have to be even further focus on renewable energy, and the event may no longer be annual as well. But I also think there's a good chance that the actual racing itself could change form. Maybe we see it as more of a Goodwood Festival of Speed type thing, where you get demonstration runs and, you know, cars to look at and listen to. Of course, this is all just pure speculation, but the signs are pointing towards that sort of thing, in my humble opinion. It's just mad to me when I'm driving around here that Formula 3 cars raced around here. Obviously Formula 1 back in the day, but even, you know, as recently as, 2-3 years ago, Formula 3 cars. I mean, that must be an incredible sight. In fact, I'm pretty sure RaceRoom has some Formula 3 cars on it. Let's give it a whirl. Pit lane entry. Safely in. Whilst I'm setting this up, it's worth noting the cost of the circuit. It's actually £5.98 if you're in the UK and you want to buy it. And for those of you who don't know, RaceRoom is free to play. You just need to buy the content, not all of the content, but most of the content. So it's very affordable if you want to go from not having RaceRoom and never having played it to actually having a go around here. Let's go with the Racing Steps Foundation car for that nostalgic feel. I have no idea where on the grid I'm going to be starting because I'm not going to qualify. We're going to jump straight in. Also, bear in mind what I said earlier, the AI can be a little funny around here. I can't keep up with them at some bits, and then I'm much deeper on the brakes than I am into other bits, so it could be chaos. I've left damage off for a very good reason. So we're going to do 6 laps. Looks like I'm starting in P12, so plenty of cars in front and behind. The question is, will I be able to overtake any of them, though? Do miss these old-school Dallara F3 cars. I don't know if the RaceRoom one's an official one. It's the Formula RaceRoom 3, but we all know what car it is. The big question is, though, can we race and make up some positions around Pau? I'm pretty sure that an F3 car similar to this has the outright lap record at Pau. I think it was actually Maxi Gunther, who you may know from Formula E nowadays, that holds the record. Whoa, we're already stacking up into the hairpin. That's not a surprise. Let's just take it cautiously through here. I think we made it one place, so that's what, P11? That's our lap count and our position. Much more downforce through the faster bits, so you can see I'm able to carry a lot more speed than the Crosley. That's unsurprising. What about the curbs, though? Can we use the curbs as much? Well, that seemed not too bad. Certainly not as forgiving, though. Doesn't like the elevation changes too much. Oh, it's just constant change of direction, concentration needed at all moments. Bit like Monaco, really. Alright, lap 1 complete. Are we flat through here? Yeah, easily. I've got a lot to learn when it comes to driving Formula cars quickly on RaceRoom. It's not something I've ever really done competitively. Certainly a unique driving experience compared to other titles with similar cars. And once again, they're stacking up so much of the hairpin, I can grab a position around there each time, potentially. Although, we're side by side in the exit. No, I think I've got the upper ground, as long as I can hang on. A bit sketchy. No, understeer. Credit to the AI driver, at least they backed off. These things do sound good, the popping and banging. I just really don't think there are too many good opportunities to overtake around here. You do have, of course, the hairpins where you can just send one, but if we're talking about online racing where everyone else is also trying to defend the inside line, brake nice and late for the corners, unlike the AI in certain situations, it's just so difficult. It basically just means that qualifying is everything. I'm not even going to try it this time, because it's just going to end in disaster.
12 seconds later.
Let's just send it. Can we get it turned? No! No! I'm beached! Help me. Well, that's ruined the race. I told you the lap before, there was a reason I didn't send it, because I knew it would end in disaster, and there you go. As with so many modern day classic motorsport events, people are always talking about them in terms of, you know, how long can they keep going? Do they have to change? Because the world moves on. People will continue to talk about the dangers of the likes of the Pau Grand Prix, the Isle of Man TT on motorbikes, and obviously this race is no different in terms of danger. In terms of an event taking place in the middle of a town or a city, clogging up the traffic, pollution of the air, and the way the world's going with climate change and everything, people have to look forward and adapt, and obviously it does mean that a lot of classic motorsport events are under threat. And as a massive motorsport fan, but someone who also cares about the climate, I can understand it. It's a really difficult position. No one wants to see race events lost to these sorts of things. We want to be able to celebrate classic cars. We want to be able to enjoy the incredible sounds of old racing machines. I've just set the fastest lap, I'll take that. That's why I love Goodwood Festival of Speed, for example, because you do get to take in some of the machinery and see them, you know, pushed up the hill climb. And it's got a way of surviving, a way of moving forward, but you also get to enjoy the incredible, innovative electric cars, for example. Formula E could have raced here. Maybe that would have made a difference, but I think the cars are probably too quick now for a track as tight and twisty as this. I just think that this circuit and its surroundings and its history is just so well suited for a celebration of historic motorsport. I just thought the Crosley felt so right for this place. The F3 car, I don't think it feels right. It feels mental and enjoyable, but I don't know if this particular event needs these very quick cars, because you just can't really overtake. When the World Touring Car Championship came here, I remember I was on holiday in Portugal at the time, and I remember watching it on Eurosport when Engsler hit the safety car. And those kind of touring car style races, bumper to bumper, lots of action, they're exciting around here because anything can happen. And with slower, less powerful machinery than even the touring cars... Hang on, I finished the race. I couldn't even spot the checkered flag. I've essentially just done a Dorian Pan. Lower powered, club style motorsport, historic or otherwise, you know, MX-5s or something like that. You've obviously seen Caterham stuff race around here. I think that suits it really, really well. And I just really hope that the event can stay alive in some form. It might be all of this worrying for nothing. You know, it might just be that the event continues as normal in 2025, it's annual or maybe it's every second year, but we still see the same circuit, the same sort of thing, and that's fine, and then this video will be pointless. I mean, you can understand why I'm saying potentially endangered circuit rather than doomed to extinction. But one thing I always say with situations like this, I just love it when modern day sims can save these circuits before anything happens to them. You know, we've seen the likes of Oran Park saved in the form of iRacing, the likes of Pukekohe Raceway, all manner of circuits that could be consigned to the history books can be saved in a virtual form for us all to enjoy for years to come. So the actual magic of the circuit itself will never be lost. So in that sense, even though it might be a completely unjustified set of worries when it comes to the future of this circuit and the events that happen on it, I still think it's good to have this track preserved in this nature for us sim racing enthusiasts. So that's going to end this video on the inclusion of the Pau circuit on RaceRoom. Let me know if you've got your hands on it yet. What do you think of the circuit? What do you think about the event itself? Do you see it continuing for years to come? Do you see it being totally different? Let me know your opinions in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Race Anywhere channel for more sim racing content like this in the future. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and have a great week.